Is this 5? Any further members seek recognition?
Mr. Chair,
Chair, recognize Ms. Crockett.
I have an amendment at the desk.
So there's 5. Will the clerk, everyone has the amendment, everyone has the Crockett amendment on the desk. Will the clerk please report the amendment?
An amendment to the rules of the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform for the 119th Congress is offered by Ms. Crockett of Texas.
Without objection, the amendment is considered as read. I reserve a point of order. The gentlewoman is recognized for 5 minutes to explain her amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. During the 118th Congress, Oversight Republicans disbanded one of the most important subcommittees in Congress, the Subcommittee on Civil Rights and Civil Liberties. And now in the 119th Congress, the chairman and House Republicans have decided to prioritize the demands of the real president, Elon Musk, and his billionaire friends over the needs of the American people. Now, we are about to approach the birthday of Martin Luther King. It's actually tomorrow. And on January 20th will be the inauguration of Donald Trump, but it will also be the observation of MLK Day. And the fact that we have decided that in this country we are not going to honor civil rights should be something that we all take issue with. Considering the fact, for some that don't know what civil rights are about, because some people only believe that it deals with black folk, let me explain. Civil and political rights are a class of rights that protect individuals' freedom from the infringement by governments, social organizations, and private individuals. They ensure one's entitlement to participate in the civil and political life of society and the state. Defined another way, the right to be free from discrimination, the freedom to worship as we choose, the right to vote for our elected representatives, the protections of due process, the right to privacy. If any of that sounds familiar, it is because these are rights that are born out of our Constitution, something that we all supposedly have sworn an oath to, and we swear to not only, we don't just swear to it, we are supposed to protect those rights. Interestingly enough, we just had the funeral of one of our beloved presidents. And I caught a flight to Austin on the day of the funeral. And I had the honor of sitting next to someone who was a little familiar with the White House. That person was Lucy Baines Johnson. And when I tell you that she is a wealth of information, I really mean that. And when we had an opportunity to talk about what she experienced as her father was president during a time in which, honestly, our country was on fire, and I would argue that, unfortunately, our country is on fire right now. When I first ran for office, I ran for the State House and said that we were in the midst of a modern-day civil rights movement, and I have not been convinced otherwise just yet. But this is the daughter of the president that signed the Civil Rights Act of 1964. She was also there when he signed the Voting Rights Act of 1965. And to be perfectly honest, without that voting rights, I don't believe that I actually would have a seat in Congress. And so I do believe in preserving the fact that everyone should be entitled to real and true representation, because I do have a Section 2 seat as our Voting Rights Act has been decimated. But one of the stories that she told me was that her father asked her about coming over to the Congress for the signing of the bill as it relates to the Voting Rights Act. Now, for her, it was a bit inconvenient as an 18-year-old to have to leave the White House and go over to Congress. And she asked her father, why should we go over to the Congress, Daddy, to sign this particular bill? And she said, we need to go over to the Congress because we need to pay due respect to those members of Congress that knew that voting for this bill meant that they would not be returning to Congress, but they had the courage to do what was right for this country and make sure that everyone's voices were going to be heard. The one thing that we could do, the very small thing that we could do, is have a little bit of courage and decide that we are going to reinstitute this particular subcommittee, because unfortunately, I don't see the type of courage that the people that served back in the 60s had coming out of some of our colleagues. And so I'm asking you to do the courageous thing today and just institute a subcommittee that would make sure that we are looking out for those protections of everyone in this country, to make sure that we have real freedom, something that we all supposedly espouse to believe in. And with that, I will yield.
Mr. Chairman.
Gentlelady's time's expired. Any member seek recognition?
Yes.
Mr. Higgins? Oh, Ms. Mace was first. I'm sorry. Ms. Mace.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, I don't know what's going on today. I find it extremely rich and offensive. So we're talking about civil rights. I'm the former ranking member on the Civil Rights Subcommittee, something I believe in civil rights and civil liberties of all Americans. And we were talking about infringement of individual people. Also, quote, the right to privacy of individuals. Coming from a party that can't define what a woman is and won't give women the right to privacy. You all want men with penises, chicks with dicks, in the bathroom with us. You want women to be forced to undress in front of men in the locker room and in dressing rooms. And it's so hypocritical for you to sit here and say and be, screaming from the rooftops about the right to privacy and civil rights when you don't respect women. And you don't respect women who've been raped, women who are victims of sexual abuse. And you want me, a victim of rape, a survivor of rape, to go into a locker room and be forced to undress in front of a man? You have to be effing kidding me. So I don't want to hear about you talk about rights, individual rights, civil rights, because you can't find the courage from the 60s to fight for women all around America, fight for women like me, every single woman. And as a rape survivor, I shouldn't have to explain to you why women have rights and why women, when we're in the bathroom, when we're in the locker room, when we're in a dressing room, why I don't feel safe when there is a man nearby. And the fact that we're going here and we're going to say all these things is the ripeness of hypocrisy on the Hill. People need to tell the truth. And if we're going to talk about the rights of individuals, we have to talk about it. Everybody has rights, including women. And at some point, men are infringing on the rights of women. We just had it today. We just had a vote about protecting women and girls in sports. And I believe it wasn't one. It was two people from the Democrat Party who voted to protect women's rights in sports today. Two. So this is, Mr. Chairman, this is a deeply offensive conversation to me today. We want to talk about real freedom. Women have freedom in this country. Women have the freedom to go to a private women's only space and not see a man in it. Women have the right to change and not be feared that somebody with their sexual perversion, someone who's confused about their gender.
What?
We have the right to feel safe in these spaces. We have the right to know that we're not going to have trans people filming us in the bathroom. How many of these trannies are taking selfies? These men are taking selfies in women's spaces, in the bathroom. It's gross. It's disgusting. So if we're going to talk about civil rights, let's talk about the rights of women in this country and how you are stripping them away every single day. And you're doing it in your legislation, you're doing it in your messaging, you're doing it on X. You're making women feel unsafe in this country. And you're making the opportunity for women and girls to be raped, to be sexually abused in this country even greater than they've ever been. So don't come over here with your attitude and talk to me about rights when you're trying to take my rights as a woman, a rape survivor, away. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. Any member seek recognition? Ms. Stansberry.
All right. First part, man, it went left, and I'll play that clip momentarily. But what are you guys' thoughts about what you was just witnessing there?
Hey.
Man? Go ahead.
I'm gonna keep it I'm gonna keep it real. First, I was lost. I didn't know what the hell old girl was talking about. But I'm gonna keep it real. Miss Mace came through with that fire, dropping bombs on your moms. You know what I'm saying? Like, get out of here with all that stuff. Y'all know I ain't playing, man. Get out of here with all that old. She was just babbling and babbling. I'm like, what is this chick talking about? Then Mace came in there like, hey, all these men, chicks with dicks, and I ain't heard that one in a long time. He said it proudly too. I'm like, okay, let's get it. Now we talking like we should talk.
Okay.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna lie, man. I'm still lost in the motherfucker, but I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna stay watching.
Yeah, like, well, was Crockett initially talking about trans people, or like, what rights was she talking about initially?
She was talking about all rights for women to have abortions, and she felt the opposite side was not in line with what the constituents and the people need. And Mace took offense and said, how dare you, me being a rape victim, me opposing abortion, but leaving it open where the government doesn't control it, where women of incest and rape have the option, but the other ones that freely go and get pregnant and use that as a deterrent from being a parent, she's against it, playing to the heartstrings of the people, being that she was raped at 16. So she has a hill to stand on, and there's no pushback there. She speaks very aggressively. First woman to graduate from the Citadel in 1999. So she's one of the boys. And she speaks like that when she's up and representing the Republican Party. I do agree with in part of what she's saying. I think that's the one pushback I didn't give any of the brothers, that we got to normalize what biologically is true and not let a country of people wishing to push an agenda force us to live the illusion that other people wish to abide by. So that's what I got from it, because it was kind of like wishy-washy at the beginning, but the majority of what she was doing was yelling. Some of her points were correct, but that's like a rap battle in Congress.
All right. Let me get your thoughts, D'Angelo. What do you think?
Well, they've been pushing this narrative for years now. I've always just felt it sort of strange.
I can't hear him.
You can't hear me?
All right, try it now. Let me see. Go ahead.
Hang on.
Oh,
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I started off with what I was saying is they've been pushing this narrative for years now, trying to push this agenda for transgenders, and it's just come off extremely odd. Like, because there's a fine line. I believe there's a fine line. Yeah, some people believe that narrative that they were born in the wrong body, but then there's that thin line of the weirdos and the perversions of a scary, dangerous individual, of a man being around women that way. And I totally agree with women that it's terrifying, because women aren't like us. They can't sense danger in a way we can, like to feel so unsafe in the world that's meant to protect you. It's just, I couldn't imagine how they really feel. So, it's odd to me.
Okay. All right, go ahead, Trev.
Yeah, so I definitely agree with what I guess Miss Mace was talking about. I don't think that it was necessary for all of the inflammatory language being the setting that it was. I understand her passion, but I think it was a little bit over the top, and sometimes you have to understand who's witnessing it, and it could take away from the message when you speak like that, right? I think that she knows better to articulate herself a lot better, right? I get the passion and everything, but no matter what, once you are in a certain position, right, then you're expected to conduct yourself in a certain way. And it can be off-putting to a lot of people, right? That being said, I agree with all her points. Some of us just have to understand, like, it's always worked a certain way forever. And then now, all of a sudden, you expect everyone to be comfortable with this new change, right? And a lot of us have daughters, man. And you have to understand that I honestly don't believe that most people who are of that lifestyle want to be predators and things like that. However, there are plenty of people who are pervs and who are ready to do something nefarious, can go under the guise of pretending to be a person of trans, and then be able to do what it is that they want to do. So you just have to understand that. I think it should be cut and dry. It shouldn't be that. Whatever you're born as, you probably should use that particular restroom. I don't see like why you feel like you need to use a woman's bathroom in the first place. Like I don't get that part. I mean, I understand maybe you feel like you were that, but you can't force everyone to be comfortable with it, right? I don't have any hatred towards anybody who lives a certain lifestyle, but we don't want it to be infused into our lifestyle. And a lot of people, that's the part that we have to understand, right? I want to just go on my daily life without having to worry about that, right? I don't want my children to be exposed to things like that. That's just how I feel about it, right? You can do whatever you want to do on that side, but stay on our side with that. That's just how I feel about it. I don't think it should be put in our face, right? I think that just in everything now, like you can't even watch some of your favorite TV series right now. They started sneaking it in. Oz got out of control, and then you start seeing it in The Wire and stuff. One of the main characters, Omar. I'm like, yo, why they had to do that to homie? Like I don't want to see that all the time. There's plenty of times where I have to like leave. I'll leave. I'll turn the TV off, walk away, because I don't want to watch that part. And then I'll tell my wife, hey, just tell me when it stops. And then I'll come back in when it's safe. You know what I mean? And I definitely don't want my kids watching nothing like that. And now it's just being infused in more and more things, even children's shows. That's a problem for me.
Yeah, I agree with you, Trev. I'm one of those old school people. I only recognize man and woman. And if it's your life, and if you decide to live it how you want to live it, that's cool. But trying to force things that's outside the norm, I do believe that there's a baseline that the world operates in, and if people were to identify with anything, right, then why aren't a lot of people identifying as dogs and snakes and all that stuff? They decide to want to identify with an opposite sex. I believe that it's more so a choice. I don't know how it feels, but I'm just thinking if everybody was just running crazy, hypothetically, and identifying with everything, then why aren't those put into the play? It's just only man and woman. So I just don't like to see it from my kids. I plan on raising my kids a certain type of way, and that's that normal baseline that the world has always, for the most part, operated in. And I just don't want to see it. I don't want to have that. But unfortunately, we have to have these uncomfortable conversations with our children, because these are the standards and principles that I set forth for my house. And so when you go out into this world, and the world's going to always be changing, where the root lies when it comes to how we operate. And so in that's just how it's going to be. I'm not going to accept anything else. Go ahead, Sharon.
Yeah. Sure.
All right. Well, I mean, I'm just keep all the way real, bro. Like, there are some transgenders that operate and look exactly like women, to a point where it's like you damn near can't even tell, if it's just passing you by. So then I'm like, sometimes I'm not sure if they're talking about them, or they're just like guys that's trying to walk around and, you know, looking like cross dressers or whatever. You know what I'm saying? There's a fine line between the transgender and a man walking around in a wig, you know, and there's a man that, you know, that goes to my gym. You can clearly see it's a man, but he's dressed, you know, like a woman. But then there's also a I know it's a transgender, but it's like the transgender is walking around operating exactly like a woman. So it's like there's no way that transgender could go and walk inside of a men's restroom because, you know, he or she, whatever, was born a man. You know, it's impossible for that to happen because if a guy sees that, he's gonna be like, what the hell? So it's just like, you know, where do we draw the line? I do understand people's sentiments, but then it's just like, you know, I feel like these days, bro, we are so far beyond what we think this is that it's kind of like shit. It, you know, it is what it is at the end of the day. You know, they're reconstructing their face, you know, breaking bones in their body, doing all that they can to look like a woman. You know, and it's pretty intense, some of the stuff that I've observed. So it's just like, I don't really know what to do. You know what I'm saying? It's like we kind of just gotta, you know, we're too far. Like these people start when they're children, you know, blocking their hormones. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't even like they don't even have a chance to develop breast. You know, and I personally have a distant family member that transitioned from a woman to a man, and it's just like they grow, you know, beards and all of that. You know what I'm saying? And my homeboy said at his job, he got caught up with one that has a beard and he had no idea. Like, there's no way. If somebody's growing a beard, walking around talking, I mean, the voice always gives it away. You know what I'm saying? But it's just kind of like, man, that might just be a dude with a light voice. You know, so I do understand, you know, the old school way, but it's like the way that is going, it's just like, fuck it, bro. It is what it is. You know, like they'll cut off their penis, you know, and make it exactly into a vagina. And you gonna say a chick with a dick when they're cutting their dicks off and creating a vagina out of that. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like we so far gone that I don't even really care too much about this topic like that. You know, it's just like, what can we do? If your kid decides to do something, you can't even stop them these days. It's just like, shit, how you gonna stop it?
Shit.
I mean, you can't do nothing, bro. It's
Out
so
there,
far,
you can't.
bro. It's so far beyond. And maybe because I live in LA, in the area where it's like, you know, I'm not too far from West Hollywood and all that stuff. So it's like, you know, I'll be shopping and then I'll hear somebody talk. I'll be like, what the fuck? You know, the voice always gives it away for me. You know what I'm saying? But other than that, that is, you know, by the way the eyes could see, that is a woman. Until it says, hey, do you need any help? It's like, oh shit, damn. You know what I mean? So I just feel like shit, bro. Hey.
Hey,
you know, like if somebody cut their dick off, bro, I'm like, shit, you dead ass serious. You know what I'm saying? If a woman is taking testosterone so she grows a beard, I'm like, oh yeah, you dead ass serious want to be a man.
But for me, I think people do anything that they think is the right thing is if they have mental illness. You know what I'm saying? Mental illness would send you to do all kind of shit, like what you just said. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's really just a form of mental illness, and what we're doing is pacifying it by giving all these, putting all these laws around it and making it okay. Everything is not okay. We need to start, like I always say, bring shame back. No, you can't just do what the fuck you want. That's the problem. Everybody think they take that land of the free too literal. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I mean, bro, we can't control what anybody else decides to do. And I feel
but
like
we should though.
No, you cannot. You cannot choose for anybody. And
You
that's
should be
where
able to set laws. Like,
I mean,
so,
bro,
so you know, in China, they just said it where transgenders can't be on television. They can't, you know what I'm saying? They said it, they can't be on television. And it was something else. And it was like, that's some steps that need to be taken because the shit's out of hand. If you are going to rule your country a certain way, you need to have some laws and some standards. And that's the problem. All that shit has gone out the window. That's why it's so reckless now. We have no standards. Everything is okay. And that's the problem.
All right, go ahead, Hank.
I mean, everything don't have to be okay to you. That's the thing. Like, as long as we control in our environment, our households, that's the only thing we could initially control. What happens outside of it, bro, it's kind of like you can't really do nothing about that. You know, like people gonna do what they gonna do.
That's the problem, because no standards are being set. You know what I'm saying? You're saying that now you can only control in your household, but then when you go up to your kids' school and they got Mrs. You know what I'm saying, Mrs. Steven, you know what I'm saying, reading to your kids, you're gonna be looking crazy as hell because they don't set no damn standards. That's mental illness. But I'm done. Hey,
Well, yeah, well, the thing about it is our country doesn't have a standard, so we're not gonna be able to hold them. Because the politicians, their sons and their daughters are the one who's crossing over. The ones we rely on to help pass these laws, they're not gonna be willing to do it because it's gonna affect their sons and their daughters. So I don't expect none of this to change. It's gonna get worse. So the only thing I think we need to do is educate our kids. You know, reach and teach our kids, our families, and our kin folks who we can out loud put hands on, who we had some type of say so over, because it's not going to get better. But I just want to be honest. I think we're at the end of times. The way the weather's going, the elements, the climate, the fires in California, the cold weather coming through on the south. Yeah, these may be the end of times, and seeing what's going on and what is allowed to happen. Let me say this: get right with the Lord. That's all I'm gonna tell you, because it's a lot of craziness. But as far as what you saying, Lord, it's coming. It's coming. So, like I said, you got to educate your kids. Talk to them. Have a conversation with them. And it's bad that we have to do this even on an elementary level. That's the sad part, man. You got to explain to your 5-year-old daughter or your 5-year-old son why these two men are kissing and holding hands in the park. You know, in the park with the kids around. They trying to play and have fun there and they being innocent. But now you got to explain that situation. I couldn't imagine. You know what I'm saying? Unfortunately, I had to. You know, my son had an issue once he learned what gay is. He said, "Daddy, are they gay?" And it wasn't even a situation with a gay, but it's just, you know, a woman was helping another woman out, but she had arms around her. He just assumed she was gay. I said, "Man, look, you can't just be saying it like that." So we had a little thing was he would spell gay backwards. He say, "Are they YAG?" I knew what he meant. You know, my ex-wife knew what he meant, but they didn't know what they meant when he said it. They just saying it's YAG. And that's what he would do to explain himself.
That ain't a hard code to decipher, though.
No, it's not. It's not.
I don't think,
you know
I
what I'm saying?
that was secret. G14 classified.
You know, that's what we had to do. You know, because he everything he's seen that he thought was questionable, Daddy, I think they YAG. So I'm saying to him, man, that's not what that is. No, you good, man. Don't do that. Don't just throw it out there, because like you said, you can get yourself in trouble. You know, with just saying that, and you might offend somebody with that, and it's just unfortunate, because y'all know what we used to do back in the days, man. When somebody did some shit to question, oh man, you gay. That was the thing. That's
the
what
F
we just
word.
said. We just said
the F word was my favorite word.
Well,
now
you know,
I'm a bigot.
I ain't gonna say that, but you know that's a different concept. But that's what we did. Now it's like, you better not do that. You better not say that. And like I said, I multiple times every year we having sensitivity training meetings at my workplace. Talk about, you got to recognize them by the pronouns, and you need to call them by the pronouns if that's what they identify as. Even though they may not got the full change, they still haven't got the full surgery, or they haven't made no name changes. If they want to be acknowledged as that, that's the case. Even kids in the schools, if they want to identify as animals, the teachers have to identify them as the animal that they say they are. This is crazy. I would never thought about this in school. There's no way we would have. Man, you sound crazy. That's just what it is. I'll leave it there.